Welcome to the Aldershot Labour Councillors virtual surgery. I'm Keith Dibble, leader of the Rushmore Labour Group, but more importantly, a North Town councillor. And I now ask my colleagues to introduce themselves. Gaynor.
Hi, I'm Gaynor Austin, councillor in North Town.
Hi, I'm Nadia Martin, councillor in Wellington.
Alex Crawford, councillor also in Wellington ward.
I'm Terry Bridgeman, I'm a councillor in Aldershot Park ward.
We have Halleh joining and Ros. And we have Sophie joining.
Okay, so welcome everyone, and Mrs. Sherwood, welcome, North Town resident, and Halleh, who's joining us from Wellington ward. So any examples or sightings, awareness of additional fly tipping with the fortnightly collection and the closures of the council tip or waste disposal centres?
I've not seen any yet in our ward, but because the army, most moves are on hold, but some are still going ahead and they obviously need to use the tip. So I'm a bit worried that the rubbish will get dumped. Yeah.
Just to repeat what I said a few moments ago, on behalf of Aldershot residents, I have written to the leader of Hampshire County Council requesting if they could reconsider that decision to close the council tips and maybe open them on a restricted basis. Councillor Crawford.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you could particularly draw to the attention of the leader of Hampshire County Council the fact that the Ivy Road tip in Aldershot has a very good system for handling the traffic, where you have to follow a one-way system round and you have to park in a parking bay, and therefore it's very easy for them to control social distancing. And if nowhere else, it should be opened up at Ivy Road in Aldershot.
Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, so no further points on refuse collection. Obviously, at this time, we're all very concerned with vulnerable people, those living on their own, those maybe without relatives. And a number of local organisations, voluntary groups have stepped up to the plate, really, and have implemented some very good systems of helping, and one, identifying, and secondly, helping vulnerable people. And one of those is ARC. And I'd like to ask Councillor Austin from North Town to tell us a little bit about that.
Aldershot's response to coronavirus, so called ARC, which was set up by local residents to support those people who might be needing to isolate because of coronavirus, that may not have other people around to help them, that need access to shopping, medication and so on. Put out leaflets to every property in Aldershot to give them contact details. There's a telephone number which is 01252 214 022. That's 01252 214 022, which is manned between 10 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. But after that, you can, any other time, you can leave a message and someone will get back to you. You can also email arcactiongroup@gmail.com, call ARC, and we will help or put you in the right direction to get support.
Yeah, I must admit, I was out delivering the ARC leaflets in a part of North Town yesterday, and then following social distancing, then went into the co-op, and a couple of people in there said they're very grateful that that you know, these voluntary groups were working and supporting those vulnerable neighbours. You mentioned other organisations. Now invite ask Councillor Crawford, Alec Crawford, to talk about the Vine, which is an organisation he knows very well.
Yeah, sure. The Vine Centre. I'm a trustee at the Vine Centre, and about a month ago they realised that they weren't going to have any clients coming into the Vine Centre, which is in Station Road in Aldershot. They were going to have to do everything online and remotely. So they completely reorganised all their services, which are for the vulnerable and the isolated in Aldershot, Farnborough and the surrounding area. So from that point of view, they reconfigured everything. And I think it might help if I just give some statistics for the last 2 weeks since the service has been up and running in that way. And in the last 2 weeks, they've taken 263 support calls. That's where they speak to people who've rung up for support in their isolation or in their vulnerabilities. They've 96 of those calls were job related. People either wanting to know what to do about their unemployment, looking for jobs, and so on. They have been able to help people into jobs, which is good. They've, through their Vine dining operation, they have a very nice kitchen set out. They've cooked and delivered 543 meals in the last 2 weeks to residents in the surrounding area. In addition to that, in order to help families who want to prepare their own meals, they've delivered 283 care packages to families in the area. So that's the kind of thing they do. Of course, there's this huge demand in upsurge and universal credit applications. Many people are unfamiliar with that and unable to do that. So using Vine Online, which is an online help service, they will help people apply for universal credit. In order to support all of this, they've got a Facebook presence, and so anyone can go onto their Facebook and they'll see what activities there are going on. They have a whole program of activities during the week, and it's, if you're vulnerable or isolated, it's well worth doing that. Like Gaynor, the Vine Centre is working closely with Rushmore Borough Council, with Rushmore Voluntary Services, and also with Aldershot Response to Coronavirus, ARC. It's a team effort in order to help as many people as possible in our area. But I can just give you the phone number if anyone is in the situation where they're vulnerable or isolated. It's 01252 400 196. And that is open Monday to Friday. There's also the email info@the Vine Centre, which is all one word, .org.uk. But probably the best way for people to reach out to the Vine Centre is through the Facebook page. I think that's all about the Vine Centre, and we're continuing. Rushmore Borough Council, we've had a very good response from Karen Edwards, who's running the response, overall response for Rushmore, to say that she's prepared to support the Vine Centre and, of course, other voluntary groups with finance where they need it. And so I would encourage anyone who's in that position to see if they're helping people through this COVID-19 pandemic locally, that they should apply to Rushmore for funding. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Crawford. Any other points on the Vine from anyone? Or anyone aware of any? Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, Keith, I'd just
Porter, please come in.
Morning. I'd just like to say that I've had some feedback about both the ARC and the Vine Centre from my residents, and they've been really, both of them, both services, they've been really very helpful. And apparently the food from the Vine dining is really yummy.
Vine or fine dining? It was a bit of both, I think.
Sorry, Vine dining. I couldn't get my words out.
Well, sticking with you, Councillor Porter. On Thursday night, every Thursday at 8 o'clock, we're all out in the streets clapping and banging our cans and fireworks going off and people singing to show appreciation of NHS workers, care workers and key workers. One hopes that when future financial settlements are agreed by government, that they acknowledge that in payment. But that's a personal view of mine. So we start paying these key workers a decent wage. But Councillor Porter, for those that don't know, is a senior nurse working in the NHS, and on a daily basis is working in hospitals where, you know, they are at maximum capacity and doing a fantastic job. So Sophie, one of the issues this weekend, as we have a glorious sunny bank holiday weekend, is social distancing and whether people are maintaining that. And perhaps you, as an NHS worker, could tell us why it is so important that our residents do follow social distancing.
Well, the main issue is the spreading of the virus, and that 2 meters is important because of the droplets. And if the droplets are sprayed and are shared, and you're in close proximity to somebody who is positive of coronavirus, then you are at risk of getting it yourself. Now, most people get a mild form and get mild symptoms, but what we're seeing in hospital is not everybody is getting a mild response. Some people come in and just need some monitoring and a small amount of oxygen, and others are coming in and are needing to go to intensive care or come to the unit where we work, and you have to wear quite a tight fitting mask and are blasted with a lot of oxygen. Now, what is happening is you're getting inflammation in your lungs, so that the gas exchange can't happen. Your body needs oxygen for energy. Your body needs oxygen to obviously to survive. And where the parts of your lung are inflamed, that's why the oxygen cannot get in. So we're seeing some really sick people. It's the most important thing, and the best way to not get the virus is to not come into contact with it. And that's why the best way to not come into contact with it is to stay indoors and not to socialise with other households. It's, you know, locally it has been busy, and we are starting to see an increase in the amount of people who are quite sick. Some of them are, you know, our Rushmore residents. So we just need to ensure that we practice safe distancing and stick to the government guidelines of going out for just your daily exercise and not mixing with other households.
Yeah, I get the feeling that 95% of people are acting very respectfully and following the guidelines, but there have been reports in municipal gardens and one or two other places of people more liberally following the rules. Councillor Crawford, you've got some.
Yeah, sure. Just wanted to mention that on our daily walk from our house down to the allotment, we walked through brickfields, and yesterday we saw people there sunbathing.
Your view of that, Councillor Porter?
I think my face just showed it. It's
yes, yeah.
It's just, I think sometimes people don't realise what could happen, and if people saw sometimes what we saw, then I don't imagine that they would want to go out. They would want to sit and sunbathe. You know, they want to be in the protection of their home. I know it's very difficult for people that don't have gardens, but yeah, sunbathing and staying out when you don't need to be out is just putting your life and the life of others at risk.
Very wise, very sound advice. Anyone else got any comments on that very, well, they said sensitive subject? Because I think some people feel that they're almost being under house arrest, which isn't the case. But one hopes that people do use common sense. Okay, moving on then to those impacted by closure of workplace or businesses. We have just a few minutes to talk about council tax support or rent support. If we start with businesses first, Councillor Austin, Gaynor and myself have been working with 2 or 3 of the retailers in North Lane who have had to close, and we assisted them with filling in the application form for the grant, and I had a text around midnight on Thursday night from one of those traders to say that the grant had arrived in the bank account, and he was relieved that his bills could be met now for both the current and the next few weeks. So has anyone else been contacted by local businesses at all, or aware of local businesses that haven't? Because you do have to apply. That's the thing, you do have to apply. And as of Wednesday, Rushmore had about 500 plus applications, and they'd worked through about 50% of them. And then it takes about 5 days to receive the payment. So it's a government-led system, it's government money, and it is a grant to those small businesses. But I'm sure some of them will really struggle. But so if any of our councillor colleagues are aware of businesses that haven't had the money yet or haven't applied, please tell them to contact Rushmore ASAP. But has anyone had any issues or been any contacts on that from their small traders? No, obviously not. That's good. Now, council tax support. Again, Gaynor and I have been contacted by a handful of residents who, because of being on out of work now or not being paid, have requested support from Rushmore with their council tax. We've contacted the tax support office at Rushmore, and all of them have agreed a payment plan with Rushmore. So whilst they are expecting everyone to pay, they'd rather have everyone pay by 10 instalments from April the 1st onwards, where we pay our council tax over 10 instalments. But for the people we've dealt with, they have pushed their first payment back, or deferred their first payment till June or July. So the 10 months then start later in the year. So whilst the advice on the Rushmore webpage, it takes you a long time before you get to the paragraph that tells you where to contact. But I would urge anyone that if they are struggling with their council tax or concerned about their council tax, to contact Rushmore ASAP. The direct line there is 01252 398 912. That's 01252 398 912. And an officer will be appointed then to work with you and come up with a plan that meets an individual's financial requirements. But has anyone had any examples of that, or aware of people that just don't know what to do? Councillor Crawford.
Yeah, what I have seen on social media is a lot of comment from people who are objecting to still having to pay their council tax, when what they see as council services, that is their bin collections and their access to the household waste recycling centre, cut. And they say, why should we have to pay our council tax to the full amount when we're not getting the services that this money is for? And I think that the difficulty is, of course, that the council is responding to the COVID-19 pandemic in the best way they can by devoting its efforts to serving our residents as best they can, even while they're having to do social distancing and provide all the support to businesses and the vulnerable and the isolated.
But if anyone goes to the Star Off licence in North Lane, where they have completely covered one window with dozens of rainbows from local people, and it's quite stunning to see, and almost makes me quite emotional by looking at it. And yesterday, and I did post this on here for Northtown, but going around delivering the ARC leaflets, there was a lovely a piece of art or poster on by a letterbox thanking the postie for the brilliant work and service they're doing, really. And that, again, that's one of the forgotten heroes, really, I think, our postal service, because that's a really important channel of communication. And it was lovely to see that.
The key worker, Iceberg. What do you know about icebergs?
I know a little bit, but I think we're going to be told a lot more. A little bit on the surface and a huge bit below it.
Yeah. Well, if you think of the key workers as the nurses, doctors and paramedics, and they're all supported by lots of people we don't see. So we can get people to draw a picture of an iceberg and fill the bottom part with all the key workers we don't normally think about, just to raise their awareness.
That's a really good point, actually. It's a great idea.
So no questions. I've been asking them questions outside this group, trying to find out what's happening to people who were missed off the original vulnerable list. And I just keep going round in circles.
Do you mean yourself, for example, or
myself and other people? Because apparently there's thousands of us.
Mark should perhaps contact all the GPs in Aldershot and draw their attention to this these omissions by the government, and ask them if they could write to, or with the help of the council, write to all their patients who are they consider extremely vulnerable, and draw their attention to it and how they can get on the list, because it's important they get on the list.
Yeah, I assume that's what's happened in the first place, because I did nothing. I got the email or the text message, and then I got the letter. I didn't do anything to get it. I assumed that my doctor said he's vulnerable, he's got COPD.
But Terry, there's different levels of COPD, and it would. I think I'm not too sure how the healthcare consultants or GPs are making their decisions. So it's best to go back to to the people who are making those decisions.
Yeah, very wise, I think.
I believe that you can contact Hampshire County Council. I'm just trying to find the number for that and speak to them about being registered. But I think Sophie's right. If you haven't received it and you think that you should, it'd be best to go back to the GP.
I have done.
Good.
I'm okay for now, but my support, people who can support me, I've got a very thin layer, and if just one thing goes wrong, then I could be stuck.
Well, at the moment, that will be the thing. Contact us on ARC, which we've given the details out. If you do need something, if things do go wrong with your support network, give us a call.
The broadcasting again next Saturday at 9:30. So on behalf of the Aldershot Labour councillors and you, the public of Aldershot and California, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.